Welcome back here on Friday Night Sports. My name is Andrew Hernandez, and today we'll be talking about high school football, and we'll be talking about what went down yesterday. So, yesterday, the Illinois High School Football Association school members voted 379 against district football, and 472 school members were for it, high school football districts. So, district play would have changed everything. So for all 1A through 8A, so for all 8 classes, it would feature 8 districts per class, 8 teams per one, I believe. And it would have instead of 5 wins to make the playoffs, you had to be top 4 in your district in order to make the playoffs in Illinois high school football. As I go down through it, so for some teams in the state, it will cause them to travel longer distances than actual. As you know, for some conferences, some schools are like, yeah, they have shorter distance to face their rivals or long distance to go. Like, for example, you look at Quincy in the Western Big Six. None of the schools near Quincy are not in the Western Big Six. Most of them are in their other conferences. I don't know what conferences are down near the Quincy area, or they're near St. Louis and all that, as well as Quincy. So they travel 2 hours or 3 hours to play conference games. Like, their longest trip in our conference for Quincy is actually Sterling and Geneseo are the 2 longest routes for them. Same thing too with Sterling for them. Their longer trip is to Quincy. Rock Falls' longest trip is actually 2 hours to play North Boone. Because if you guys don't know where North Boone is, it's in the town of Poplar Grove. The school is like almost near Wisconsin. So technically right here, I'm wearing a Rock Falls Rockets. Like, this is a basketball warm-up I wore from last year. Because as you all know, like, when I was playing, our longest drive in the BNC was North Boone as well, like I mentioned. As well, like, in that conference, we had to go up to Rockford as well to play Rockford Christian or Rockford Lutheran. And then we had schools of Byron, Dixon, Oregon, Stoma Valley, and Winnebago as well. So for districts, for some conferences, it would cause more changes for them as well. So they would got rid of conferences will be eliminated if district play was approved. For some schools, like I mentioned, Rock Falls, Sterling, and Dixon, for district play for them, Rock Falls, I don't know if they're in 2A or 3A. Like, if we were in 2A, we would have to be, I think we would probably have been with either Erie, Provincetown, Bureau Valley, or Riverdale as well, Rock Ridge, going down the Quad Cities, or paired with the Free Rivers. Because I think most of them are 2A as well. Or for 3A, you would probably still have some of the conference foes, like Oregon, Byron, Stillman Valley, probably DuPac out of the Northwest. I'd say Illini as well, because I think when I was watching out of, I believe, the Rockford area, out of one of their news station, they said that DuPac was also out of the Northwest Upstate Illini Conference. They would probably play more of the big northern schools in the Big Northern Conference. Like I mentioned, Oregon, Byron, and Stillman Valley as well. Probably Winnebago as well. And probably for Rockford Lutheran out of the Big Northern as well. They'll be traveling more eastwards to take on the likes of Aurora Christian and Chicago Hope Academy as well, and Chicago Richards. Because they'll probably, for Lutheran and Rockford Christian, they probably would have been going more towards Chicago and Aurora as well. Then I put for Dixon, for Dixon, they would probably, another school in the Big Northern, they won't be playing most of the big northern schools like Rock Falls, their arch rival in the big northern, Oregon and Byron or Stone Valley. They would probably have to play either Rockford Boylan, Johnsburg, Richmond, Burton, or Harvard. Because Boylan, I believe, is the smallest school in the Nick 10 conference, so they will probably be playing schools because most of their schools in there are like bigger than them, like Rockton, Hattoniga, Manchester Park, Harlem. Because I believe they will probably be playing. I think I forgot the schools. Like I think it's Jacobs. I think it's pronounced the actual name, but they're somewhere near Chicago. Probably DeKalb as well on that list, and probably I technically mentioned Molina as well because they'll probably have to travel 2 hours to go to Rockford because they'll probably have to play like Harlem and Hattoniga and probably DeKalb as well. And then for Sterling, they would probably be playing the likes of Geneseo, Freeport, Woodstock North, and the Royal Marion, their district, if it would happen. Because I think they would possibly have Geneseo, because, no offense, because I think they would go wherever Geneseo's going for Sterling. Because if district football would have happened, they'll probably been cooped up with Geneseo like they always been, because them and Geneseo kind of have a rivalry in football, and they played, because I know for many years they've been in the same conference as well with Geneseo as well. Because I think like if Geneseo, like if they left the Western Big Six, I believe Sterling would have left the conference along with Geneseo, so they can keep the Maple Leaf Golden Warrior rivalry attempt in it as well. So for scheduling, like my opinion is like you see schools with like some schools that canceled their varsity season, like in the Western Big Six, Rock Island Alleman, who actually canceled its varsity season this season as well, because due to low numbers in their program as well. Like my suggestion is, what are you gonna do? Like if one of the schools canceled its varsity season as well, like the Western Big Six, because Rock Island Alleman, as y'all know, is one of the teams that's the lowest school, not the lowest, but the smallest school in the conference. But their football program had to cancel its varsity season due to lower numbers, because they have low numbers in the program, and they had to cancel the season so they can try to get the numbers up, so they can try to compete in the Western Big Six to keep the program healthy, to have upper numbers as well. Like for the Western Big Six schools, like in the Three Rivers as well, most of the Western Big Six schools played some of the Three Rivers schools. Like Newman played Rock Island this year, and they beat Rock Island in overtime 22-20. And that was probably one of the biggest wins in their program's history of all time, probably, because they beat a 7A school in Rock Island. That was really good. That was the first Western Big Six versus Three Rivers matchup. Then game 2 was Sterling and Princeton, and then Princeton, who was actually state ranked this year, Class 3A, beat Sterling, a 5A school. And I believe Sterling and Princeton, they haven't played it. It was the first time ever Sterling played Princeton down in Princeton in a long time. And then Mendota also played Geneseo, and Geneseo was the only school out of overall in the Big Six to beat a Free River school, because they were struggling as well, because as I mentioned, because the Free Rivers also lost Peru St. Bede. They went, I believe, to a Chicago conference out of Chicago, and probably for them they're like the farthest drive as well. So throughout some of the past years, 20 conferences have seen schools join or depart from conferences as well. And then 4 new conferences have been formed. So there have been 4 conferences that have been formed that I mentioned. Like some schools, some conferences did depart, like older conferences, like some old conferences some people do remember. Like some of them be like, oh, I miss the older conferences. Like I mentioned like the NCIC, Rock Falls' old conference, and then even the NIB 12 that I mentioned, is an older conference as well. So with the departure of conferences with districts, so it would allow the state to make the scheduling, because some schools to schedule soft opponents to make them, playoff eligible, because currently right now, to make the playoffs in Illinois in high school football, you have to have 5 wins to make the playoffs. But it doesn't go by to get 5 wins, but as I heard, it goes by points, depending on you can go in the playoffs. Like some teams, I believe, that got into the playoffs, some teams went 4-5 this year to go in the playoffs. Schools like Sterling, they had to beat Moline in week 9 to get in Class 5A, and they upsetted in their first game. They upsetted a team that went 9-0, and that was Chicago Payton at Lane Tech Stadium. Because the last 2 years at Lane Tech, Sterling has won 2 playoff games there. In the second round against Chicago Ghoul, and also this season against Chicago Payton as well, before falling to Wheaton St. Francis at home in the second round. A really good ranked team who actually was in the semifinals in 4A as well last year. And you look at some teams that were in 4A that got moved up to 5A, like Wheaton St. Francis was not the only school that got moved up to 5A. Rochelle also got moved up, and they lost its game to Wheaton St. Francis, a team that they lost to in the quarterfinals as well. Because, like some would have to make soft opponents, because some people would have opinions on it. Like, let's say, like, travel, like, they're for it. They'll be like, oh, like, the travel, like, for, like, how many hours? Like, let's say, like, they travel, like, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours to play a game. Like, let's say if one of the area teams here, like Rock Falls, Sterling, Newman, Dixon, Morrison, or Fulton, had to play a school that's coming from the southern end of the state to play up here, because most schools would be like, oh, we had to travel like many hours, to play a school in our conference. And why would like, oh yeah, like with districts, we can play schools that are not near us, that are really our size. Like that would be, like I know that as well. Like let's say if like in District 6, like let's say they have 7 and one of the schools canceled its varsity season, and then they have to find a third non-conference or non-district opponent. Like I mentioned, the Three Rivers and the Western Big Six. So right here, I wrote down half of the conference changes. You look at schools that have changed, like this year, because right after the 2023-2024 school year comes to a conclusion, Morrison and Bureau Valley, who are it's their final season in the Three Rivers, are also leaving the conference as well. So for Bureau Valley, they're heading to the Lincoln Trail after this season. Morrison's heading to the Northwest Upstate Illini to join with our tribe of Fulton as well. And then previous years, we've seen schools leave the conferences. Like Mendota, who also used to be in the Big Northern Conference, but right after the 2020-2021 season, where they left to go to the Three Rivers to play the likes of, I said, for them. And football in 2021, Mendota shocked everyone and made the playoffs, because that team also was struggling in the Big Northern Conference, because for them, they were playing the likes of, Byron, Oregon, Stillman Valley, Winnebago. Going up for them, they had the longest travels because they had to play they had to go up to Rockford to play Rockford Lutheran, Rockford Christian, or 3 hours technically to play North Boone as well. Because for them. And then you had Sterling in 2019, who used to be in the NIB 12, who also played in the Western Big Six for some years as well. Because they joined along with Geneseo as well. If you guys don't know what the NIB 12 stand for that I mentioned, it was called the Northern Illinois Big 12, mostly a public school powerhouse back in the day, because Sterling and Geneseo were both in that conference. So that school saw changes as well, like Streeter. I think the Longman Dixon left. I think Streeter left as well. Because you see some schools that are now in different conferences, like DeKalb, they're currently in the DuPage River Valley, along with, Meta Valley, Nuika Valley, Wabusa Valley, Naperville North, Naperville Central. In that conference, Dixon, they're with Rock Falls in the Big Northern Conference. Because Dixon now plays the likes of Oregon, Byron, Stillman, Winnebago, Rockford Lutheran Christian, and North Boone. That's the Big Northern Conference currently right now, but Mendota, that I mentioned, used to be in the conference. Geneseo and Sterling, both in the Western Big Six, because now they play the likes of UT, Moline, Rock Island, Alleman, Galesburg, and Quincy. Canelan, LP, Ottawa, Morris, Rochelle, and Sycamore they all still play together in the Interstate 8. Streeter, I don't know what conference they're in, and Yorkville, another school that I forgot to put down, they're actually in the Suburban Conference. So most of the schools are currently successful programs that I mentioned. Because I know Dixon this season, they actually went 8-1. Currently they almost did win a conference title before losing to Byron in week 8. Canelan, LP, Ottawa, Morris, Rochelle, they're all in the same conference for football, but they also play with the Kishwaukee River Valley schools, I believe, as the form of the Interstate Kishwaukee River Conference for football as well. So I know Rochelle, they went to the quarterfinals a year ago, beating the likes of, because I know Dixon and Rochelle, they almost did reunite their rivalry last year in the playoffs in the first round. They did, because both of them used to be in the NIB 12 that they probably mentioned, because these two did reunite their rivalry, and they also won the overtime as well that year, where Rochelle actually won it. They go far in the quarterfinals. Sterling and Sycamore did meet each other last year in the quarterfinals as well in the playoffs. Not from this season's playoffs, but from the year before I'm mentioning. Sterling and Sycamore did meet each other in the quarterfinals, where Sycamore won 28-0 to go to the semifinals as well. Because I know some of these two teams that used to be in the NIB 12 actually did face each other in the playoffs as well. I know a year before Sterling went in the quarterfinals, I know them and Rochelle almost met in the playoffs as well. The year before, I know Sterling and Rochelle almost did. So I think one year Dixon and Geneseo did as well. So for districts, so conferences are still going to happen next season as well. So if you are for district football or not, just put your answers down in the comments below, because I would love to see were you for or against it as well. So those were, I kind of talked about old conferences and some of the moves and changes in conferences. Like, that's a fact. Like, for the last probably 5 years, 4 conferences have been formed. 4 of them, 4 new ones have been formed. Like the interstate, I think that was formed as well. So what do you think is going to happen? Are they still going to talk about district football yet, or is it going to stop this year as well? Or will they bring it up again? Because I don't know yet. Because I don't know yet or not. Like, if they do, what do you think is going to happen if they do? So put it out, answers below. I would love to see your answers below in the comments to see if they do bring district football or not to Illinois. So what are your opinions? Are you for it or against it? So put it down below. Subscribe for my videos as well, because I do talk about football, basketball, high school sports as well, and all other stuff as well. If you're a sports fan or a high school sports fan, make sure to subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.